Welcome back, everyone, to the latest episode of the Incubator Think Tank podcast, our first in the new year of 2020. Today we sit down once again with Incubator founder and CEO Sujal Raju for another informative discussion around today's latest tech topics in the web and mobile world. Our talk today revolves around Google Duplex, what it is and its possible future, and realistic uses for consumers. So, thanks for joining us and enjoy today's talk. All right, well, welcome back, everyone, to the Incubator Think Tank podcast, our first in this new year of 2020. And by the way, this podcast is available on the incubator.com website and on many of your fine podcast services. And welcome. We are joined once again for today's podcast by Incubator's president and CEO, Sujal Raju. Good day, Sujal.
Thanks, Dave.
Sujal, today we are here to talk about a thing called Google Duplex. And for those unfamiliar with this new technology, as always, before we get into our topic, if you could tell us a little bit more, or a brief overview about Google Duplex.
Sure, Dave. You know, it's kind of like a piece of any futuristic movies that you may have seen on artificial intelligence, and seems like part of it is already here today for us to use. And so Google Duplex, I'm sure if you've heard all the buzz in the news and other areas of media where they're talking about this technology, and it's garnishing a lot of attraction right now, and the reason for that is because of how it has been advertised. Meaning human-like voice makes a phone call to a restaurant and actually makes the booking for you. So I'm sure that excites a lot of people of its possibilities. And it's an offering by Google, and it was first announced in the Google I/O conference back in October of 2018. And the technology, as Google puts it, is there to accomplish real-world tasks over the phone, which means that using it as a personal assistant, you can ask it, direct it to make a reservation for you for a restaurant or buy a movie ticket or such services. And the technology behind that is a set of recurrent neural networks that were built using a machine learning platform called the TensorFlow Extend. And try to be technical, but basically all it means is like it's using artificial intelligence to make, for the first time, I would say, or at least the first commercial way of using artificial intelligence, and with that ability to naturally converse with humans and perform actions.
Well, that's a great overview. I mean, it is a kind of a scary technology in a way to some people, but like you mentioned, Google Duplex originally launched, or Google at least kind of demoed it originally as a way to help people make restaurant reservations. That's how it's been rolled out so far. And this is using an automated or AI-created human-sounding voice. So it was there to make reservations over the phone. For people via the Google app. That was just one basic implementation of it. But where do you see this going? Specifically, what uses could it have in everyday life for users on the web?
Sure, that's actually a good question, because when people talk about Google Duplex, they think about the Google Duplex over the voice, which is the one that you may have heard. I'm sure it's on YouTube and everywhere, where if you see that demo, basically it's someone making a phone call to one of the restaurants and making the reservation for you. And it's quite funny in terms of how it does that, but it sounds so natural, right? And that they're able to actually do that and actually make a reservation. But that's just a portion of what Google Duplex can do. There's also something called as Google Duplex over the web, and it's actually an assistant plugin that you could install, let's say, on the Google Chrome browser, or I believe it's also available on the mobile devices. And what that does is actually allows you to converse with it and actually helps you fill web forms. So that's exciting in a way, because if certain population with certain disabilities, it helps them to use their voice to do certain things which may be challenging to them to perform on their device, on their phone or a browser.
So in addition or aside from just reserving, restaurant reservations, so some real good real world potential uses for it.
That is correct. Yeah, and this is just the beginning, so I'm sure they're going to open it up. The way I see it is, what's in it for Google, right? Or even for Apple when they introduce such technologies. The reason for that is they're trying to own that kind of business or transaction. So you can see Apple Pay or Google Pay or any of these services where they allow you to make a transaction. It allows these companies to corner that market where businesses eventually can't lose that. Imagine Google search, right? Everyone performs a search. They've cornered the market on search. So when you perform a search, or for businesses, it's a huge potential. So they want to advertise on Google as well. So it's kind of like an revenue system for them. Similarly for this, when this becomes quite popular, it's kind of a market share where businesses may not want to lose it and embrace it or have to embrace it, because otherwise, they're potentially losing that customer to another competitor who's embracing that technology.
Right. And so you mentioned businesses using this technology. Do you see any challenges in terms of these businesses coming on board with this? I mean, if it's something they're not wanting or kind of hesitant to move forward with?
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting. I've been following this, and what I've been reading is one of the challenges, I'll give you an example, is that, if you look at a busy restaurant, and they probably get a lot of phone calls, or if it is a popular restaurant, you are bound to know that they probably get a lot of spam calls. So what that happens is and this has actually happened, or at least in the article that I've read, what it said was that this restaurant, being very busy, they used to get a lot of spam calls. So what they did is they just look at the caller ID, and if they don't recognize certain numbers, or if they think that something is not a valid number, they don't even pick the phone calls. So in this particular case, I believe Google shows the call from Google shows up as identified, or caller ID as Google, and because it's not a person's name, it's possible that the restaurant may not even pick up the phone call. So things like that businesses don't even know how to embrace it. So it's kind of more of a training, not necessarily training, but education, that hey, this is how it works, so that businesses can take advantage of this. Because if you look at it, the business standpoint, they actually want to make the transaction too. They want that customer to be able to reserve that table. But whether they can understand that hey, this is the call coming from an AI bot, or be able to pick that phone call, that's one challenge.
Right.
The second is the AI technology is going to get better over a period of time, but until then, some of your complex conversations, it's going to be interesting of how that AI agent listens and understands what the other person is saying. There could be a language barrier, or the accent, things like that. The second is, because it's an automated system, it's possible that it could make a mistake and it could misunderstand someone saying something. And we have all had that experience. If you're talking to your Google Assistant and you're trying to say something to it, know that sometimes it has understood something else and given you an answer that's exactly not what you're looking for. So that's the kind of problems that we're going to have. Right.
And like you said, even if an establishment is participating knowingly and on board with it all, you've got a lot of employees. And someone is just kind of second nature to ignore certain calls or whatever, but or also, as you mentioned, I mean, it could be on a call, and you might the wrong response by the automated voice might turn off someone in a busy environment, lots of noise in a restaurant. May just kind of hang up and not get that business.
Correct.
So those are some challenges, and just kind of a broad talking about that so far in a broad way. But in the healthcare market specifically, what kind of uses do you see kind of taking place in that industry?
So one of the ways I see I see this technology being embraced in both the sides, from the consumer side as well as on the business side. On the consumer side, it's going to help a patient or a patient care seeker or a healthcare seeker to be able to make an appointment with a doctor, or make an appointment for their MRI scan or something like that. So they could use the assistant to do that. On the other side, on the business side, I also see them embracing this, where they could use the AI technology to be able to be the first line of contact in their help desk, so that this human-like agent can humanly converse with the other person and hopefully take care of all they want from them, without having the need for a actual help desk agent talking to them. And so that's two ways. The other way I see, and I think Google is planning to do that, if not they've already started, is the Google My Business, where they have to make phone calls or reach out to the businesses to confirm that they're a valid business, or confirm whether their address or anything like a verification that they normally perform. They could use this technology to make those and automate it on their side.
And since this is AI-based, artificial intelligence, a lot of people are probably not fully on board, or might not be fully on board with that type of technology. Are there any concerns out there that you think the public might have?
So one of the concerns, again, is that because it's an AI, it's possible that it could make a mistake, misinterpret something, and be able to make a booking that is not what you wanted, right? So that's one of the things. And the second is the concerns over security or privacy. Because you're talking to an agent, it's possible that it could record or be able to log somewhere the conversation. So you may have said something, whereas people tend to believe, like, when you make a phone call and if it's not on a recorded line, you tend to know that you can speak something that's not written somewhere, like an email or something like that. So privacy is a concern. And I would say, like, overall, with AI, it's possible that you could put you could have a scenario, and this is funny actually, just an imagination, but you could have an AI bot on the consumer side talking to another AI bot on the business side, and you never know what transaction they are completing. I mean, again, it's going to get better, and obviously maybe it won't be an issue, but it's possible that they might transact something that both of the parties did not want.
Right.
So that is a risk over there.
Right, and as you mentioned, this is Google initiating this, and they're looking at what's best for them. But obviously, I mean, they're trying to make things a lot easier for businesses, and if they do, then it's good for them. But just the like you just mentioned on the business side as well, but that technology in general, even if Google is not initiating it, seems like a lot of potential good uses for it out there.
Yeah, Dave, I think this is one of the technologies where initially we might have a lot of fear in terms of adapting it, and rightly so, because you're kind of allowing a computer to learn a behavior or act on your behalf, and that is a little scary, and we all never know where this is heading. But if you look at it, it's all about the advancement in technologies and how it's helping people do what they normally do. It's, if you compare it to when we first rode an automobile, it's a machine that's helping you travel between one place to the other, So something like that. So it's going to help you finish certain transactions that you normally don't have time for, right? So it could be a time saver in one sense. And if you watch the iRobot movie, you order it to do shopping for you, and it finishes everything, or does your laundry and things like that, right? So it's all possible, right? With this, I mean, it's just this first step, or I would say a first big step, a first big leap in this area, where it's actually coming into the reach of a common person, where they can use this technology at this level. I'm sure we all know that artificial intelligence is already here. Whether we know it or not. If you have called your utility company, you know that when they pick the call and it greets you that, hey, I am a chatbot. Tell me anything and I'll be able to help. But how frustrating sometimes that experience is, and you're like, just get me a customer representative, right? But if it gets better and better, it's gonna get easier for people to adapt and accept that this is out there.
Right, as you said, I mean, obviously robotics, automation. There's been some amazing things done out there to help people out, especially in the healthcare world. But coming and making things more convenient for everyone involved is,
right,
not a bad thing.
And you mentioned healthcare. Think about people with disabilities or even language barriers, right? And if let's say they are from out of the country, from a different, from a country where they may not speak English, and you're trying to help them get care at your hospital. And they go to your website and they have to fill a form or something like that. The AI could help them fill the form, and it's also the aging population with disabilities. They could just converse with their Google Assistant and allow them to actually complete a transaction. In this case, schedule an appointment or fill a form online, and they're just speaking to it at their own pace. And they don't have to move the mouse, or don't have to know the be as agile to fill a form. There might be certain limitations for them, which may be hindering them in terms of filling those forms, where the agent could fill it for them. So a lot of good uses, practical uses out there that we may not see. So there's a good side of it as well as a scary side of it. But right. Things will come into light when they do.
So any final thoughts? I mean, what do you, there's some great information you provided here, and, for both, whether it's voice or on the web with forms, things like that, some definite possibilities of good things being done here.
Yeah, I would say as a business, and again, because Incubator provides services in web and mobile, I would say for those, I think businesses should embrace this at this point. There is already information on Google on how the Duplex on the web works. There is an agent. You have to make sure that your website allows that agent to parse certain parts of your website. If you're concerned that it shouldn't be spidering certain parts of your website, then block it. But if you want to allow, so there are certain things that you can do right now, and there is analytics that you can also turn on and get some key information on this. And make your forms enabled so that it can embrace these technologies as well. So do not make it so that or modify them as this technology evolves to make sure that they are compatible with search services, so that they can allow those people to fill the forms. And I would say it's exciting. There's a lot of possibilities, and let's see how it goes.
Awesome. Well, all right. Thanks again very much, Sujal, for your time and for this, the latest episode of the Incubator Think Tank podcast. That's Think Tank with a Q at the end, ENQ, and our first podcast of the new year. Again, thank you, Sujal.
Thank you, Dave.
And for all of you out there, for more information on Incubator and the solutions they offer, as always, you can visit incubator.com.